Okay, so much to discuss, but only so much time. So today in this video, I really just want to go over what happened in the quarterfinals and then do predictions for the two semifinal matches. I'll probably do some sort of big review for the entire event, recap stuff. Well, maybe I'll go over all the matches, but at the very least, I'll talk about more of my experience at the event and things like this. So the event just concluded, or I guess the first day of the event just concluded, the first day of the playoffs. So there's still 2 days left. Again, semifinals to be played tomorrow, and then the finals on Sunday. Also, the new season reveal. My mic hopefully sounds good. I couldn't figure out my audio settings for the longest time. Otherwise, I probably would have uploaded another video already. But I think I sorted it out. But if I still don't sound as good as normal, it is what it is. Until I get back home, this is what it's going to sound like. Okay, so where to start? Oh, I just wanted to posit a theory really quickly. Notice how all of the NA teams, the ones at this event, they all have a funny man, or you could say perhaps a comedian. On Astralis, you have Forest. So they went from being really bad in Stage 3 and they picked up Forest, and now they're really good. On XSET, you have Yaga, and he was on Auction before and they were good, and now here he is on XSET and they're really good. And then on Oxygen, you have Dream, and before they had Yaga, of course. And on DZ, you have the biggest funny man of all, the comedian himself, Troy Comedian. So, and you'll even notice with Space Station, they sort of started falling off after Troy Comedian left, and now here he is on DZ. So, I mean, coincidence? I think not. It's just a funny little thing. I suppose, depending on how you qualify things, most of the NA teams have somebody who's like pretty funny or whatever. SSG, I think, is notably one of the teams that does not have a funny man per se. Unfortunate for them, perhaps. We'll see if they can bounce back from the lack of a funny man on their team. Okay, let's talk about more serious stuff. We'll start in the quarterfinals. We'll go down the line. Liquid versus G2, the only matchup for the day that didn't have an NA team. And, well, spoiler if you don't know, all of the NA teams won their matches. Of course, an NA team was going to win this one, but Auction beat BDS and DZ beat Team 1. Anyways, back to Liquid versus G2. Yeah, Liquid, they won the first map fairly solidly. What was the score? I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, it was 7-4. Good win by them. And then on the second map, by all accounts, G2 should have won it. They were up 6-3, I think, and then Liquid just won 5 rounds in a row. Palu had one of his worst maps ever. I think by the if you average out the 2 maps, he went like 14 and 17. He was still the worst player on his team by a pretty noticeable amount. And I think Nesk was the next one. So it was actually PSK, Ask, and Resets, the 3 stars of that match. And just really uncharacteristically bad map for Palu. I don't remember what he was in particular, but like 1-9, somewhere around there, like really, really bad. But his team managed to get them across the line. And G2 seems to have some amount of chemistry issues. Like they've sort of looked like it throughout the tournament, and then at the very end, when Virtue was trying to clutch to keep them alive, he was in like 1v3 or something. His teammates are all just typing GG already. It was like unlikely he was going to be able to do it, but surely not impossible. So maybe, some internal stuff to work on with them. Maybe they're just super frustrated. I don't know what it was. I guess on the topic of frustration, lots of tech issues and super, super long day. I wasn't even there. I wasn't there for this first match. I just, I don't know. I didn't feel like being there 12 hours. And I guess by the time this ended, it would have been more than 12 hours. So insanely long day. Props to the people that were actually there from like 9 to 11 or 10 to 10 or whatever. Really, really long day. Some trends maybe to notice. I'll point these out now while I'm thinking about it. Yeah, you'll notice Europe didn't win a single map in the playoffs here. BDS and G2 were the only European teams to make it through, and they didn't get a map. And every match here, it was a 2-0 in a sense. The first one and the third one were literally 2-0s, and then the other ones, the team that lost, they took the first map, and then the other team took the second and third map. So Team 1 took map 1, and then DZ took the next 2, and same thing, XX took a map, and then Astralis took 2 maps. So just kind of cool to note. NA is dominating this event. They win like 18-4 in terms of maps in the group stages, and here they are winning every round possible. They dropped a map here, and I guess in a sense they dropped a map here, but this one doesn't even count because it's NA versus NA. So I guess it's like 20-5 NA versus non-NA at the, or no, 22. I didn't count this one. 22-5 in terms of maps NA versus non-NA. So NA on top again, hopefully. Of course, Liquid can still win the event, but otherwise DZ, Oxygen, Astralis. Okay, so let's keep going down the line. Yeah, Dark Zero versus Team 1. I think closer than people expected. I think most people expected a 2-0, but I mean, it's a best of 3, so it's not really unreasonable for even like a somewhat noticeably weaker team to just take their map, and that's sort of what Team 1 did. They took their map on Cafe 7-3, but then it wasn't close, 7-3, 7-2. So yeah, it looked like it could have gone either way because again, you know, Team 1 took their map 7-3, and then DZ took their own map 7-3, and then they slapped them 7-2 on Clubhouse. Canadian did his interview after the match, and he was talking about, yeah, I mean, it wasn't really that concerning to us because they beat us on Cafe. As I watched the match, I was concerned because it didn't look like a strategic thing. Like, if it's your opponent's map, I think the reason you're probably losing it is because their strategy is better, but it looked really like a fragging issue to me. Hyper and Pambo were really struggling. And I suppose just a map that you like, it's not always because your strategies are amazing. Maybe you're just really comfortable on it. Your fraggers are really good on that map for whatever reason, but I do feel like gun skill transfers over from one map to the next map more easily than strategy because, of course, gunfights remain largely the same, whereas map structures change up and stuff. So it did seem kind of concerning, but I mean, I guess DZ proved the doubters wrong and whatever. And I guess Team 1 was up like 2-0 or something on the second map, so it looked like they might even get up to a big lead there, but didn't. So about halfway through that match, DZ just totally took over. Anyways, I guess that does it for that one. I'll also note here, I got all 4 of them right, all 4 of my predictions, but I mean, I don't think it's terribly impressive. I did just predict all of the first seeds, and all of the first seeds did win. It could have gone either way in any of these, I suppose. I think this one, which was anticipated to be the least close, ended up going to 3 maps, and then this one that I thought would probably be the most close, was 3 maps. This one, and well, I think Liquid GT was like the least close, right? Let's talk about Oxygen versus BDS. Yeah, you can see it here. 8-6, 8-7. This has definitely been the match of the tournament thus far. Astralis versus Xset. If it hadn't been a destruction on Skyscraper, if this had gone like 7-5 or overtime or something, this maybe would have given it a run for its money, but this was a bit anticlimactic in the way it ended. Yeah, Oxygen versus BDS, it felt like it went all 3 maps, but in fact it didn't. Oxygen even made the comeback both times. So I think the first map, it was back and forth and back. I think Oxygen got off to a good lead. They were like 3-1. Then BDS took the lead. They were up 4-3 or 5-3 or something. And then they traded a few rounds back and forth. And then I think Oxygen were down 5-6. They pushed overtime with Vertical getting an ace. That I think was the most exciting moment that I've seen thus far. Maybe something will top it, but in ace to push overtime, it wasn't in a make or break map, but it was to go on to win the first map to set the tempo. And yeah, so they did. And then in the next map, they were down, I think, 4-6, and then they won. Didn't they? They won? No, win 8-7. So they won 2 rounds, and then overtime went however it went. But Oxygen came out on top. Yeah, I think they won the first round of overtime, and then they sort of threw the second one. They did a rush. I mean, maybe not throw, but it didn't work out. And then in that very final round, Oxygen took it down, eliminating the final European team from the tournament, and maybe BDS needs to go back to the drawing board. Maybe they need to consider making a roster move. They haven't made a roster change in quite a long time, and in all of that time, they haven't made a move. They haven't, I don't even think, made the finals of an event. They've had some like top 4 placements, things like this, but not even making the finals is pretty bad considering they've been like top 2 in Europe for however long. I guess that maybe speaks to the weakness of Europe at the moment, and well, pretty clearly NA's on top. But if Liquid wins this event, maybe that won't be totally clear, but I mean, especially if DZ beats Liquid, it's absolutely uncontestable, right? But just the sheer dominance of NA in this tournament, I think it's clear that NA is on top pretty clearly. I mean, maybe Liquid is a standout in LATAM, but yeah, well, anyways, NA, LATAM, EU, APAC is the pretty clear pecking order at the moment. So let's talk about this final match. Astralis versus Xset. This one just wrapped up a little bit ago. And I mean, it started scary. It looked or scary for Astralis, I guess, not for Xset, because they do win the first map. It goes to overtime, 8-6. I did the map predictions on this one, and I wasn't like super off the money. I guess I only got one of the 3 maps correct, but I did sort of talk about all of the maps. I think the 3 maps that I said were the least likely. They did get banned out pretty early. Border, I thought maybe. I didn't think they were going to go Border or Sky. Like I thought they could, but I thought they were going to opt for what did I say? Like Villa and Bank specifically, and maybe Cafe. And well, I did mention these though, so I don't feel too terrible about it. It is hard to predict. teams in best of threes that have never played best of threes, whatever. Okay, I talked about it all in that video. Yeah, so let me pull this up one more time. We play on border, and that was Astralis' map, so good on Xset to take it. I should also mention, Bodega got banned from Siege for a year, or competitive Siege, or whatever it is, because he made some comments, and I don't know, it's a very contentious matter at the moment. Don't want to go into it too much, but I mean, I'm sure it's plastered all over Twitter and Reddit, so feel free to take a look if you care to. And that probably impeded Xset's performance. This seemed like a surprise to them. They just woke up this morning and this announcement was out, even to Bodega, so probably hampered their performance. I actually saw him at the event. I didn't talk to him or anything, but as I was walking around, I saw him sitting there with what I think was his family. And anyways, it didn't seem like it was bothering Xset at the beginning. They ended up winning border, even if it went to overtime. And then Oregon, which was seemingly a very, very good map for Xset. The only time we saw him play it, I think, was that game against Sonics, but it was a 7-0. So here we saw Xset lose their first 5 rounds on Oregon, or 7 rounds on Oregon, rather. And it cost them that map. So, Astralis, it was a good map for them as well, but Xset, I'm sure, would have loved to have won this, considering it was their map and they would have won the series. But no, we go to map 3, and then Astralis smashes Xset. Both these teams had been seen playing at one time. Astralis way back in week 1 of the NAL, and Xset just on Wednesday or whatever versus Liquid, and they both won their matches. But I mean, looks like a mistake in the end. Astralis was really good on it, and Xset only got the 2 rounds. So that is how the day concluded. And so this guarantees we will be seeing at least one NA team in the final. And I suppose, I mean, if you consider this game a coin flip, then a 50-50 chance of 2 NA teams being in the grand final. So who's it going to be? I guess let's do predictions. So Liquid versus Dark Zero. I would love to see Dark Zero versus Astralis in the finals, because it would be NJR versus Iconic, and that's just 2 players that it wasn't super recent their come up. I guess it's even been like a few years now, but they've been quite good in NAL, and they've both been probably the standouts for their team throughout this tournament. Maybe NJR a little bit less now that we're in the playoffs, but definitely the best player on his team in the group stage. And then Iconic continues to be incredible, even through his match against Xset, and for these and they used to team together is maybe the biggest draw, the thing I didn't really mention. So it would be really cool to see them go head to head, and I mean, even Oxygen, any of these teams going head to head would be very cool. But I do enjoy that storyline if it does happen. I'm gonna go Liquid over DZ here. Partial, maybe a little bit of bias, because I think it's going to be more fun of a grand final if it's NA versus non-NA. But I mean, NA versus NA, I guess, just guarantees an NA winner, which is cool. But again, for storyline purposes, I feel like DZ has shown maybe a little bit more to be concerned with. I suppose maybe they've had a little bit better of a tournament. At this point, I think they've won. Page just got refreshed. I don't think that really matters to us. What are they on? So they won 2 maps here, and they had 5, so they're 7-2, whereas Liquid, I think, is 6-2. So I guess Dark Zero have just won one more map than Liquid has, but Liquid's 2-0 in the playoffs, and Team 1 seemingly a weaker team, and there's just a lot of factors. I guess Liquid showed a little bit more depth here, and by way of Palu and Ness sort of struggling, and the other players picking it up. I don't know, just easy, just little things in their play that, I mean, I don't want to go too much into detail here, but I guess I'll go Liquid. I could see DZ winning this, and I'll be rooting for the NA team, but I'm going to predict Liquid. Okay. Oxygen versus Astralis. This feels like the hardest one to call, and honestly, I was thinking about looking over a bunch of stuff before this video and then making my prediction based on all that stuff, but I changed my mind and decided I was just going to do it in the moment. So who am I going to go with? Okay, so Oxygen, they clutched it out versus BDS. I mean, it looked like they coulda, shoulda, woulda lost either of these maps, considering they were the ones that had to push overtime and then win via overtime. But they did win 2 maps to none. Astralis got a map taken on them by Xset. Not that Xset are slouches by any means. They are the 4th seed coming out of NA, but I don't think that really is terribly significant at this moment. BDS, 2nd seed of Europe, 4th seed of NA might be more impressive than 2nd seed of Europe at this point. Anyways, this is so hard. Who do I want to pick here? I feel like my very initial gut feeling was Oxygen, and then it just pivoted to Astralis. Newers has been crazy. Iconic has been crazy. I think I'm gonna go with Astralis here. I don't know if I'm gonna regret it. Maybe I should go with my original gut feeling, but I mean, if I get it wrong, there's always going to be some, oh, I knew I should have. Yeah. Okay, I'll go with Astralis here. I just feel like they've been a little bit tighter as a team, and just in this event especially, and I mean, the better team in NAL. But do keep in mind, Oxygen was the only team to defeat Astralis, and it was a pretty severe beatdown, a 7-3. I don't think we'll be going to Chalet again. Maybe we will. Probably not, though, I would imagine. So, yeah, and maybe, I guess when you lose to a team and you're about similar skill levels, usually you have the bounce back factor. You kind of sort of expect the team that lost, again, assuming they're similar skill levels, to come back and win the next one because they should have learned more from the matchup. Yeah, I just have thought Astralis have been a little bit more electric, and their backs were against the wall in a different way. Auction had to go to overtime and win that way in both of their maps, but Astralis had to win 2 maps because they lost the first map here. So both faced some amount of adversity there. But again, yeah, I'll just go with Astralis. I mean, it's just like a call. I don't know. It could be Oxygen. I guess be on the lookout. Newers versus Iconic might be a real battle for the ages. Both T3 Giganauts made their way up. Newers more recently. And okay, this video is probably super duper long. So is there anything else I want? Oh, one more thing I did want to mention. Astralis Forest, I think, is on one of the biggest, coolest redemption arcs in Siege, like, of all time. He was on United a few years ago, and he was terrible, him and Callout, and then they got dropped. And then that team brought in Kansan and Rexen. They were still kind of bad, but I think at that point they had all the pieces, and now those guys are all on Sonics, and they're pretty good. And then Forest and Callout, they went down to Challenger League, and this is a story we've seen before. Some players have done it, like Chala did it from NA. He went to CL and decimated everybody, and then came back and joined TSM. And I think Cryan did it in EU. He went back to Challenger League after being on G2, and then he got back onto Rogue, and I don't know, yeah, well, Rogue, middling success, but still decent success. He's, especially, I think in his last stage, really popped off. And now Forest, yeah, on his way to potentially win a major. I guess if I get my prediction right, then he'll be at least in the grand final of a major. So I just really wanted to point that out. It's really cool watching that bounce back by a player. And not just him, but Callout and him. They've been this duo forever. Callout now in the coaching position on the roster. And all right, I think that does it for this one. So, right, I mean, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, likes, comments, or or subs, leave them in their appropriate boxes. And okay, with all of that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video.